So what does it take to scale from 4,000 to 37,000 in assets with private equity backing? On this week's Profit with a Plan, I'm joined by John Brooks, CEO of Warehouse on Wheels, which is acronym is WOW, which is cool. It's a private equity fluent leader who's helped scale and reshape multiple businesses into multi-location and multi-million dollar powerhouses. From just two locations in 2018 to 35 offices and 37,000 trailers across US in North America, John has architected WOW, their explosive growth while delivering massive returns for their investors. So if you're thinking about scaling, exiting, partnering with investors, then this is the episode that's going to give you the blueprint for sustainable success. Hey entrepreneurs, are you working too hard for too little profit? Well, welcome to Profit with a Plan podcast, where we help you scale smarter, increase profitability, and build a business that's worth more, whether you keep it or you sell it. I'm Marcia, Riner, business growth strategist and the profit booster behind Infinite Profit. And I've helped countless entrepreneurs to turn their businesses into highly profitable and sale-ready assets, so they enjoy more income now and a bigger payday later on. So join me for practical strategies, expert insights, and proven steps to make your business more profitable, more valuable, and built to last. Today's episode is sponsored by Infinite Profit, where we don't just talk profit, we deliver it. But before we dive in, I have something special for you. And what if you thought maybe that your entire marketing system might be able to run smarter, faster, and simpler starting today? The Profit Booster Marketing Hub is built for busy business owners who are trying to make better leads, smarter automations, and more sales without hiring a bigger team or learning complicated tech. For a limited time, you can get a free 30-day trial of the full suite at profitbooster.biz. All right, so let's jump into today's episode. Our guest today is John Brooks, CEO of Warehouse on Wheels, one of North America's fastest growing trailer rental providers, providing or servicing businesses across the US, Mexico, and Canada. Since joining the companies as the first CEO in 2018, John scaled WOW from just two locations to 4,000 trailers and over 35 offices and 37,000 units on the road. He's a two-time Inc. 5000 leader, Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year finalist, and a multiple time, if I can get my mouth to work, ACG Dealmaker of the Year. With decades of experience building private equity-backed companies, John brings a unique perspective on growth, leadership, and delivering exceptional returns. John, welcome to Profit with a Plan. I'm excited to have you on today.
Thanks, Marcy. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, so this is cool. So first of all, I just love your concept of having warehouse on wheels, which are those trailers that you can lease and rent to companies that need temporary, extra space. So that was a brilliant marketing idea. And I know you couldn't have done it just on your bootstraps.
Right.
So how did you get into the PE space, the private equity space?
Yeah. So I am now, I guess, a 7-time tour of duty executive with PE. So I've made a career as I left Arthur Andersen. I like to say I was there till the end, rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic as that thing was going down. I was blessed to have an opportunity to step into a CFO role with a private equity backed company. We had an extremely successful exit. And I think when you start that high, off that high of that success, it just kind of says, okay, this may be my niche. And so my career has sort of worked its way through a number of different opportunities like that. And then ultimately, I was a customer of my largest competitor here in Cincinnati in the mobile storage space. And I looked at it one night and thought, well, maybe we should buy those trailers. And then I started looking at the unit economics and I thought, no, maybe I should just own that company. And so that was really the impetus for why I wanted to get into this business. And we've just had such a blessed run since 2018 when we got started.
Yeah. phenomenal run. If you could put the little unicorn on your forehead, then you'd work perfectly with that phrase, right? Because not every company is going to come and they're going to have the smarts, the know-how, the systems, the ability to take somebody else's money
Mhm.
and turn it into really high multiple returns, but yet still kind of control their own company.
Sure.
Because, from what I hear, most times the PE comes in, the owner or founder is kind of pushed to the side and everybody else
Sure.
runs the show for them.
Sure. No, that's definitely, I think, the stereotypical view of private equity. So I think it's why it's important for people that hear this to really do the due diligence on their partners and understand their track record and really almost interview them, if you will. There is so much in the way of capital in the market, dry powder, as we'll call it, for investment, that most instances will have multiple suitors, and that's good as a seller, obviously, but it
Yeah.
also then creates that opportunity for you to really understand and do your own due diligence. Who are you marrying, really, in all senses of the word. So it's definitely a challenge for owners. The other challenge, I think, is they're used to being their own boss, and now they have a board of directors and other people that they have to answer to. So that's a big culture shift. And so again, selecting that right partner becomes mission critical.
Oh, exactly. But before we get into that a little bit more, let's kind of set the groundwork. Why would someone want somebody else's money to help them grow their business? I mean, it's like
Absolutely.
duh, but let me throw that one back to you.
Here's how I positioned it the last time we sold this business is as we stood in front of these potential investors, I said, look, we've built a rocket. We've designed the flight pattern. We know where we're going. We need jet fuel.
Mm.
And so that really is the motivator, I think, for the private equity groups to participate. One, because they know then we're going to lift that rocket off and we're going to get the right returns. But two, it helps that management team who has a vision, a dream, a structure accelerate that
Mhm.
path.
What a great description of when you're going to need that money, right? You've got everything going and you do need rocket fuel in business sometimes
Right.
because there's so many other things that you want to do. And if you're the visionary like you are and I am,
Mm-hmm.
you see the potential of where it can go and map it out. And it's like usually you're carrying an anchor along with you of either your wallet or your team members that can't quite get that momentum going. So having those kind of partners that can see it with you and go, yeah, let's do this. I mean, it just to me it sounds tremendously fun, to have
Absolutely.
people that have deep pockets that want to trust you and then want to invest in
Right.
you.
And it really is a well, I wouldn't say self-filling, but once you get kind of one of them under your belt, it just becomes that flywheel where you build the brand, the trust, the the understanding that you know how to run the playbook. And so that first one's tough. You got to pick the right partner, but when you hit it right on that first one, it can be very, very rewarding.
Yeah, I bet. And then they're lining up afterwards when you hit the next one. They're like, okay, so what else do you got, John? I'm
That's the
ready to
hope.
go. You did so great on the first one. Let's do the second one, right? And
Absolutely.
for us crazy entrepreneurs, we will probably never retire. We'll just sell and buy some and start something else. So
We
it's
just keep
perfect.
growing our trailer business. So there's all these different levels of firms. The guys that want to participate when you're kind of sub 10 million of EBITDA or even $1 million of EBITDA. And then there's these different tiers of firms. So as we outgrow that firm's kind of bandwidth, there's a whole nother universe of firms that you get access to.
Wow, it's great. So
Mhm.
are you privately or publicly held right now?
Privately held.
So
Mhm.
is there a dangle of a carrot to go public?
Maybe
I mean, that's a whole
sometime.
nother nightmare right there.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe sometime in our future. And I often comment to folks that when that happens, there'll probably be another guy sitting in this chair. So I'm not sure having come through the Arthur Anderson ranks, I'm not sure I'm a public company kind of guy, but I enjoy building them along the way.
Love it, love it. Okay, so then let's talk about how maybe we do set ourselves up for success when we're taking other people's money, whether it's a private equity firm or maybe it's a self-funded group of people that
Sure.
decide they want to buy in for you. How do you manage that for success?
I think first and foremost, you need to run your business as a business. So many entrepreneurs will run their business as a lifestyle. And so it just complicates the process when things like this arise. So for an outside investor to make a decision about whether or not to participate in a business, if the numbers are complicated with the lifestyle of the entrepreneur, all the expenses associated with that, while it may be a fine tax strategy and fit for the day before that, it just really makes that much more difficult. So I would tell you having your house in order, really making sure books, records, all those sorts of things are tight and ready to go. And then the other thing, again, I think it is that dating process of understanding who you're going to partner with and understanding what the rules of engagement are going to be. Is it a controlling interest? So they're going to have 51% and you're going to have 49 or some version thereof. And all that's negotiable in the early days and probably easier to negotiate early on in the process when everybody's interested and excited. And so I think having your house in order, I think understanding the partners you're evaluating and you're going to pick, and then two, laying the ground rules of what's the day one kind of operating mindset.
Yeah, because you can end up pushed aside very easily if you don't have that kind of relationship laid out and set out. And I think it's easier for the business owner to get pushed aside when they don't have a solid plan that would allow them to get in, and then they choose the wrong partners that are a little strong arming them and off to the side. But in reality, if I understand PE correctly, there's a window of opportunity that they're looking for, right? It's a period of, 3, 5 years, just as an example, that they're saying, we want to get from here to there, and then we want to exit. And I think that's what sometimes scares business owners as well when they're bringing on a PE is maybe I don't want to exit.
Well, the good thing is most firms, has been my experience, they want the owners or the CEO of the business at the time to stay with the business and to reinvest in the business. So, for example, we have sold this business from one sponsor, one PE firm to another already in our history. And so, as we did, part of what the second sponsor was buying was the management team, the intellectual property, the vision, the business plan, all those sorts of things. And they encouraged us to reinvest with them at that event. And so as an owner, I think the issue becomes, one, how long do you want to stay in the business? Is this ultimately your exit plan, this initial sale? And if it is, you need to make darn sure you've got some sort of management team in place to carry on the business, because it produces another risk for financial investors that don't typically want to run the businesses. They want to be engaged. They want to know. And so you got to have that backstop. But if you want to stay with the business, those are always on the table and really something that I think they encourage, especially when you put your money where your mouth is.
I like it. Well, that's encouraging to those that are always, they've heard the negative side of PE, and now we're exposing a very positive side of PE, that rocket fuel that can really help you get to the area you can almost taste, right? And to have that kind of feeling that you've got a partner that can drive you there, help you there, support you, mentorship, financially, structurally. I mean, I know there's a lot of pieces that PE companies can bring in. What kind of other things can PE companies bring to the table when they're looking to partner with a company?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I found very rewarding personally is if you pick the right partners, there's the ability to grow the personal wealth of your team. So we've actually instituted a program all the way through all levels of the organization that the next time the business is sold, every employee will benefit financially beyond their just paycheck and bonus structure. So if you find the right partner, and since the mission's aligned, oftentimes there's opportunities for you to build a structure where your team can reap financial rewards that in some instances can be, life-changing. And so I think that's an exciting part of it. It's another tool in the toolbox that when you have that right partner, you're able to bring to your team members and add value to them personally.
Oh, that's amazing. That's kind of like an ESOP, right? Where you're
In a lot of ways, yeah.
Yeah, where you're building out the employee owned, so they're getting shares of the future company, which creates that amazing buy-in on their their work opportunities, their level of engagement, the production that they give, because
Absolutely.
now they're striving to build that company the way the owner does. So I love that idea there. Okay. Do they often come in and want to help with leadership and direct them in better ways, or are they expecting the leadership to be strong on their own?
I think they're about enhancing it. And because again, if their goal is ultimately to sell the business, they want to position the business in the best way possible for the next owner. We often talk about leaving some runway for the next guys. And
Hmm.
so if you invest in the management team, the leadership team, their personal development, strengthening some weak spots in the team as you step in, that's all value creation ultimately. And so there's a big motivation to do that. So in this particular instance, we've added to our senior leadership team between ownership groups as they've seen opportunities and in ways we're going to grow. They've allowed me to invest heavily in our learning and development. We literally have a member of our management team that is the director of our organizational learning and development. He's a PhD out of the university setting. So
Wow.
I found a frustrated PhD over in the university setting and brought him on our team. And now we've designed this wonderful learning and development org. And that's all been supported by the financial partners that are behind us.
Wow. And that's amazing. Again, it sounds like they're adding tremendous value to the
Absolutely.
company culture, as
Absolutely.
well as the bottom line and the opportunities that are in front of you that now you can grab because you're bigger, better, stronger.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Wow, I love this. Okay, so now that we've talked about the benefits of a
Mhm.
PE relationship that could really boost, let's talk a little bit about the exit on that.
Sure.
What generally happens and what's a typical timeline?
So
Are your podcast guest appearances leading to real business, or are you just hoping that listeners will take action? With the Profit Booster Podcast Monetization Hub, we turn your interviews into lead generating machines so that you capture, nurture, and convert listeners into paying clients. So stop leaving money on the table and get started today at profitboosterpod.com.
assuming you're not sponsor owned or PE owned at the time and you're exiting to them, oftentimes you can expect you'll hire an advisor of some sort. So whether that's an investment banker or a lawyer, depending on your trusted advisor network that you have, and they basically run an auction process.
Okay.
So you'll be asked to put together a book and a data room, so an online repository of all your information, and then they'll market your business just like you'd market a piece of real estate, and you'll receive inquiries and so forth. That process could be a 6-month process.
Mm.
From start to close might encompass a year even, and it can be pretty distracting to your teams if you're not well prepared. So I would tell any of the entrepreneurs stepping into this, find the right advisor, so the right investment banker, the right legal advisor, not your family lawyer that did your trust, but someone that's done M&A work.
Yeah.
We've done about 20 acquisitions in this business, and God bless them. Almost every one of them has taken us to their buddy, the attorney, to work the deal. And it's like, it always works out. We've never lost one, but man, some are harder than others because of that. So get good advisors and then
Yeah.
really kind of buckle in, because it'll be a distraction if you let it and if you're not prepared.
Yeah, and you have to keep the business moving in a positive
Absolutely.
direction during that time. So if it is
Absolutely.
a distraction that you're not prepared with properly and you're scattering to run and do books or correct audits or things like that, then it could be a real
Sure.
nightmare, I can imagine. Um, okay, so say now where we've had a partner and the
Mhm.
partner new relationship, how long would we run a typical relationship with a partner before we potentially either outgrow them or they've
Mhm.
decided that they want an exit at this time?
I think most firms will tell you they have a 5 to 7 year time horizon,
Okay.
but about year 3, you probably start evaluating where the business is going.
Mm.
If you're exceeding expectations from a growth trajectory standpoint, um, if there are other market conditions and things are more favorable than not, those sorts of things, all that's in play. It's really about trying to time the market from an exit standpoint that aligns with the
Which is
business
which is
success.
Possible, but close to impossible. Right.
Yeah, I think it's just a check the box. So if the business is hitting its numbers and exceeding the expectation, if the interest rate market is favorable, then you're probably, in the
And all
process.
planets are aligned, and
Yeah, exactly.
the sun is to the back, then we can go.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
it's the same sort of dance again. You're going to hire an investment banker. You're going to get your information ready. Probably at this point, when you've been owned by private equity, you've professionalized your data gathering, your
yeah.
financial analysis. So you're more prepared this time around. And by the time you're getting your second rep at this, you're kind of old school at it.
Yeah. Okay. That gives a really clear kind of history or window of what these things look like. What would cause a PE, I mean, you've kind of hinted at them, a PE relationship to fail?
Yeah. So I think a misalignment on expectations. So as I bring in new executives to our teams, I tell them the basic ground rules are tell them what you're going to do and do it.
Do
Or
it.
if you're not, you need to show up with your corrective action plan to get back to what you told them you were going to do. The element of surprise is the worst thing in that relationship. That coupled with any ambiguity or lack of communication, just like in any personal relationship, is detrimental. And so where I have seen them be more difficult and more adversarial is when there's a lack of transparency, there's a misalignment on expectations, or we told them something and when we showed up, that wasn't what we delivered and we didn't have a plan to get back there. And so I think it really is that simple.
I think that sets the stage too for getting the business owner in the right mindset that they're no longer the business owner alone, right? That they've
Right.
got those partners, like you mentioned early on. That's a huge shift because here they've birthed this child, right? It's an ugly child. It's dirty, they're growing it, they're trying to do these things, and now they have to shift that mind and go, oh, here you go, board of directors, and here you go. I'm gonna show up in a clean shirt and it just seems really counterintuitive to the business owner's mindset. How do you shift them so that they can be successful in that spot?
Yeah, I think that's where fundamentally at the beginning of the process, the owner has to commit to one or the other.
Mm,
Either this is my swan song, I'm going to exit and I'm going to hand this child off to, the college or university to finish training them and to get them a job kind of thing. Or I'm in it for the long haul. And if you're in it for the long haul and you have the emotional intelligence to deal with it, then we're off to the races. But you got to set your mind right on what do you want out of this. And oftentimes, folks will start with, I'm going to ride this out. I'm in it. I'm going to do it. And after the first one or two of those board meetings or phone calls with expectations and answering to someone, they kind of get the wake up call that, okay, maybe this isn't me because I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I'm not
exactly.
a W-2 employee, so to speak.
Yeah, that's where I can imagine the biggest trouble would lie is in the owner and not realizing to the full extent of granted you were told your
Yes.
advisors told you, they set you up for everything, but in reality you didn't quite, you didn't expect that it was going to be like this,
Yeah.
right? And I think that to me seems like the hardest challenge is to get past that for many business owners. But in all reality, nobody makes a successful business alone.
Right.
You can't. You're
Mhm.
either going to self-fund yourself and go to the bank and get a loan, and then you still have to provide all your financials. You just don't have to answer to them.
Right.
Um, or you're going to get partners that are going to come in and tell you left or right the same
Mhm.
way, or you're going to go to PE, but rarely can you bootstrap a business and make it something significant.
Sure. I think that's, again, it's that entrepreneurial's mindset versus an executive's mindset, and especially when it's something you've started and you've built, it's got that emotional attachment.
Yeah.
So for a lot of folks, I think it's really getting it to a point where it's part of your exit strategy is probably the optimal setup. But not saying it can't go the other way. You just got to set your mind right on it and understand it. Because to your point, it's like reading the book and understanding the steps that need to happen, but then you got to go actually execute it and implement it. And that execute and implement it is a fundamental disconnect from how your brain's probably been wired for the 10 or 15 years you've been building that business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I could just imagine the challenges. But on the flip side of that, those that have not appeared on Shark Tank, but have actually done favorable relationships with companies to expand and grow and fund their rocket ship have
Mm-hmm.
been hugely successful in having the company that they wanted, right? And now it no longer becomes Smith and Company. It's Smith and Company with this brand, right? And these people behind them. And it's this legacy that maybe Junior isn't going to step into, but
Sure.
it's still that legacy that you created and it continues onward with the right team and people. And, it's to me that's cool.
Yeah, and properly executed, again, getting back to the rewards of your team. When you're impacting the lives of people that have been on that ride with you in the lower levels of the organization, and you can have a substantial impact on their life beyond just you and being there with them every day. It's pretty meaningful.
I think so. I think so. And I always like to think of, when you have this business, right? It's not just about you. It's not just about you feeding your family, but it's you taking care of your work community, but also the community of your customers, right? When you
Absolutely.
can deliver better products and better services and you can be that mainstay that your customers depend on, that to me is really rewarding as well because then they know they can trust you and know that you're going to be there to provide this service for them, right? And then that again creates more legacy that goes down the road. I think it's a fantastic thing, not for everybody, but for those that want to run and create a serious business, it's an incredible opportunity. Um, so let me ask you one more kind of round of questions. When
Sure.
we talk about PE, you alluded to it and said, yeah, the 51-49 split, right?
Mhm.
And the 51 is usually the PE company and the owner's 49. What is that? That's pretty common, right?
There's a multitude of options. I tell you, it seems like every time I'm at a conference or I'm talking to an investment banker, there's a new way to look at it. So
Mm.
there are firms out there. There's some folks, I think they're out of Missouri, called permanent equity, which it's long term non control equity. So you can
So
take
there's
those
options.
guys in as partners. So there's options. That's why, again, I think engaging the right professional to advise you, and
Mm.
I would recommend in most instances an investment banker, that's going to lead you down to the right path, because if they do their job and understand your desires and your goals, then they can align you with that source of capital. Because we haven't even touched on the debt financing that's out there, all the private lending that's going on. So you have your traditional asset-based loans, your lines of credit, and all the things we all know, and kind of motherhood and apple pie. But then there's a whole nother option out there with the private capital markets that's in the debt realm. So you don't even really get into equity, where maybe they have some equity options and different things like that.
Yeah, that's self-funding, right? So then they're coming in and going, look, you can get financing for this next phase, this next
Mm-hmm.
expansion that you want to do, the next purchase you need. Yeah,
Absolutely.
there's all sorts of different financing tools that you can use that aren't necessarily ownership driven, like you don't
Correct.
have to give a piece of your equity out. I think those are fantastic tools. You have to monitor and manage and make sure that you can service the debt that you bring on
Sure.
with the growth potential that you have. But yeah, that is another way to grow a little bit more on your own back rather than on the back of others. Um, uh, the thing that always catches me though, is that when you're looking at that giving up equity or ownership percentage of your company, it's like I always come back to the mindset of going, well, I have 100% of $100.
Hmm.
We'll use one silly number, but
Sure.
then or I could have 49% of $1 million,
Sure.
right? Which would you rather have?
Right.
And I think that's the idea potential is that these people have skill sets that they bring to the table. They can offer opportunity to your workforce. They give you opportunity to reach a vision that you want, but don't quite have the capital to get there. So for me, it sounds like it's a win-win with maybe a few sprinkles of potential downside for the business owner in their mind, right? So if you've got that vision, why not go for it?
I agree, but I'm partial.
Well, and I've
I've
been
lived it.
partial the other way for years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is something that is definitely a shift for me because I've always been that, well, they're going to come in, they're going to railroad you, they're going to take the company over and you're out on your ear. But then the other side of that is there, if you've got that vision and you can't get there alone, you absolutely can't, then why are you giving up the vision?
Yeah, I think that's the value judgment you have to make. I mean, it's a lot like people that decide, the value of money to them. Is their time more valuable than making more money or whatever their life choices are? So fundamentally, I would say the entrepreneur has to decide, yes, I'm committed to this and I want to take it from here to here and I need help. Or, yes, I'm still committed to this and I think it can go from here to here, but now it's time for me to step away and let someone else carry the ball, whatever the case might be. And just acknowledging that when you do bring in investors, when you do have the blessing of that capital, there's other voices in the room. And you have to be willing to accept that with it.
Yeah, this is great. John, I love this idea. This has really been opening and for me, allowing me to come a little closer to the PE side versus staying on the bootstrap side for so many years. So I really appreciate that. And I love the opportunities that can really, truly come your way that could be favorable to the business owner rather than looking at it as a negative side. So I'm glad we've had this conversation. So where
Well,
can
thank you for having me.
where can listeners find out more about you and even your trucking storage opportunity?
Yeah,
I just
absolutely. Well,
love it. It's such a great idea.
so first of all, you can find us when you need a trailer, when you need some extra storage space at wowtrailers.com. We'll be happy to help you. We like to say that we provide Ritz-Carlton service at the Hampton Inn price. So we'll take really good care of you and only ask a fair price. And then if you want to hear more of my musings and meanderings of a slow-witted bald man, you can find me on LinkedIn. I post pretty regularly there and would love to connect with anyone that would like to.
Love it. I don't know, slow-witted. I think it's the bald. Yeah, okay, we'll go with that one. This has been great. Yeah. Listeners, I would encourage you, to keep an open mind. Look at opportunities to grow your company in a way that can really, truly take your vision the way you want. And I've said it we're 300 plus shows in here. I probably said it 150 shows worth that you can't do this alone. You need advisors, you need potential partners or financial partners to help you get your dream that you've had with your company to get it to the place that you want to. Now, we're not talking Amazon or market domination, but we're talking growth. And this is a normal factor of growth, using other people's money to get you there. And if this is the way you might be able to get you there and sprinkle the rocket fuel, then I would encourage you to open your mind, look at the opportunities, run the numbers, get some help and advice on the direction that's right for you. But consider it because I love it. Pouring rocket fuel on it. It
There
just
we go.
makes perfect sense. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in today. I hope you picked up some valuable insight and actionable ideas to help you make your business more profitable. And if you're ready to simplify your marketing and get started with better results, grab your free 30-day trial of the Profit Booster Marketing Hub. No tech headaches, just smart, streamlined marketing that works. Head over to profitbooster.biz and get started today. You don't want to miss future episodes, so go ahead and subscribe. You can always catch Profit with a Plan on any of your favorite podcast players, and we're looking forward to more great profitable strategies on next week's show. So until then, make your plans and profit with them. Thanks so much, John.
Thank you.